right, folks in cyberspace, it is my pleasure at this time to say to you, welcome and welcome to Focus on Liberia. On our program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Anthony Cyr, as your host. Today on our program, we have two outstanding guests. We have Mr. Wilmot Kunney, and we also have Dr. Kulah with us. And on this program, these two gentlemen have a huge task on their hands. Their responsibility is to discuss four major issues that we have brought to their attention, and they were able to honor our request to be here. And so, folks, if you are joining us in cyberspace, again, welcome to Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Anthony Cyr. Please share the show, invite your friends and contact to be part of this national conversation that promises to be informative. Dr. Kulah, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you for having me again on Focus on Liberia. I enjoyed the last debate I had with the fellas that were on the show with me, and I look forward to a healthy debate with Mr. Kunney.
Mr. Kunney, we want to say welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much for having me, and I also share the same sentiments as Dr. Kulah.
Thank you, gentlemen. It is our pleasure to have you. And save for in cyberspace, again, this is Focus on Liberia. On our program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Anthony Cyr. For our topic today, we have critical analysis of four key national issues that our guests will be diving into. And so, folks, our audience now looking at you, I believe they are very curious to know who you are. So in just a few seconds, starting with you, Mr. Kunney, who is Mr. Kunney or Wilmot Kunney?
Well, in short, Wilmot Kunney is a resident of the state of Pennsylvania, city of Philadelphia. I am a community, social, political activist, and a trained security professional by career. So I wear too many hats, and that places me in a position to come to the table in terms of discussing issues facing our country. As I indicated earlier, the hallmark of my community advocacy was the privilege of being elected National Executive President of the Union of Liberian Associations in the Americas. As you all know, ULA is the umbrella organization for the various Liberian community associations and organizations throughout North America. We are the major advocacy entity for Liberians in the diaspora and for Liberians at home. In addition to that, we also follow keenly the politics of our country. We remain engaged with the politics of our country, and we also devote some of our time to professional issues that are of interest to us. For example, issues that impact the security sector, where our passion and our expertise lies.
Thank you, Mr. Kunney. We'll go in details when we get the ball rolling here. So, Dr. Kulah, the same to you. Who is Dr. Kulah?
Well, Dr. Kulah is the son of Bishop Arthur F. Kulah, former United Methodist bishop. I grew up in Liberia until I was at the age of 18, and then came to the United States to attend college. Initially, my path would have taken me to the role of a pastor and possibly a bishop like my father, because at an early age, I preached a baccalaureate service at my school. And from that time on, I've been very engaged in African politics, in Liberian politics, and throughout my college years, I was engaged in what was going on in Liberia, because at that time, the war started in '89 when I started college, came in August, the war started in December, and it impacted me in a very severe manner because I couldn't find my father, didn't know where he was, his house was burnt down. And that made me realize the importance of politics, the importance of having the right leadership in a country, the importance of making sure we as a people stand up and speak the truth to our leaders. And so I've been engaged in that kind of advocacy for a long time. So people like to joke and say, how come you're a doctor, but you so much into politics? Is because politics has shaped my life. It affected me in a very profound way. So my background is in medicine. Family medicine is basically my career path, and my life is in advocacy, advocating for Liberia to have better leadership. So I look forward to discussing these issues from a position of making sure that our leadership does the right things for its people, so that we don't go back to the bad days, whether it was during the one-party rule of Tubman or Tolbert, or whether it's the Dole rule or anything like that. We want better leadership for our country so that we don't get into a mess. And that's the position I come from.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Kulah. A little about our guest there, Dr. Kulah. Again, folks, in cyberspace, the stage is now set. Our guests have introduced themselves, and we are now ready to go into business. So do not forget to share that show with your friends so that they can join this conversation. Again, my name is Anthony Sie, the host of the Hour of Politics on this network focused on Liberia. Gentlemen, we are getting started, and we will come to you, Mr. Kunney. The president of the Republic of Liberia, now known as Dr. George Manawia, had his first interview in the country since he took over, and he make a lot of news. He said a lot of things. My guess is that you might have listened to him. And so this is the segment that we are beginning now. All the things the president said, we may not be able to get all of them, but my first question to you is that the president said something that got everybody wondering whether or not the president really meant it. The president said that the economy, his economic management team, is doing very good. And we know that we all agree the economy is tough. People are crying, but the president came out to address the nation, and he said his economic management team doing a good job. So the question is, do you agree with the president that his economic management team is doing a good job?
Well, look, sometimes the issues of Liberia are discussed in the most simplistic terms. Matters that relate to the economy of Liberia are very serious issues that we all need to analyze carefully so that we can be able to come up with an informed decision. I agree with Dr. Kulah that we all want a better Liberia. We all want a Liberia where the government will be responsive to the people, where the lives of the people will be better, and where Liberians can live peacefully. We all agree to that. But some of the issues that people discuss relating to the performance of the government, those are all challenges that country has undergone for a very long time. And those challenges are still there. There will be no illusion to say there are no challenges in Liberia. But I think the responsibility that we all have is to give the government a governing space to put some of their policies into action and see what would be the impact of that policy. I'm saying this to say that, look, all of the agitation, all of the activism for this government came immediately when the government was sworn in. Creating the impression that the very chronic economic issues, most of which are structural in that country, can be resolved in a matter of a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
The problems of the Liberian economy is so much profound that no one can bring solution to those problems in the matter of time that we are glamoring. That is not to suggest that you shouldn't do what you have to do to improve the lives of the people. We recognize that. But let us all be aware of the kind of economy that we're talking about. This is an economy from time immemorial that has been based on the extractive industry. There is no light industry in the country, no value that has been added to our product. Everything is import-based, export-based. So these problems are very profound. And I want to believe that when the president said that his management team is making good effort, making good effort, I want to believe that with the challenges and with the circumstances ahead, these are the things that the president may have been alluding to. But I do agree that there are significant challenges, and the government and all of us as Liberians, we need to come together to try to put our ideas together to revive the economy.
Thank you. But before I go to Dr. Kulah, you said that the government should be given some governance space. So if you're talking about governance space for this government, I mean, are you talking about time? I know you also mentioned structural economic problems or issues that they can be resolved within a year or two. The government has gone 2 years. So how much governance space that we can possibly give the government to get this thing turned around?
Well, the time frame for me is not important. What is important is our understanding of where we are. Sometimes I make the statement that let us not pretend that Liberia was like Sweden before this government took over. If you look at Liberia, we still face the same problem we face. This country has never felt itself. We've never been self-sufficient in agriculture. We've never produced energy. We've never built roads. We've never built hospitals. These are all challenges. And I'm saying that we need to at least be a little bit patient, while this government is making effort to reverse some of these things. Sometimes some of our colleagues argue that, they argue in a way that, look, the solutions are just there. And all you need to do is to wave the magic wand and these solutions will come about. And basically the area you see the advocacy going are all human resource issues. Move Kunney, dismiss Kunney, as if to say if you dismiss Kunney, it will improve the price of our raw materials. Dismiss Dr. Kulah. If you dismiss Dr. Kulah, will it bring the exchange rate down? So what I'm saying, these things, I understand the human aspect has a part to play, but let us understand that these are structural issues. It will take the government time to get a grip on some of these issues in the area of infrastructure, in the areas of agriculture, in the area of energy production. All of these take a little bit of time. And no government, no matter how smart you are, that can come to office and do those things in 1 year. That's my basic argument.
Thank you, Mr. Kunney. And then the same question to you, Dr. Kulah. You heard the president, he said his economic management team is doing well. And he even went as far as saying he does not see the need to even conduct a reshuffle.
The president is wrong. The president is flawed in his thinking. The president made a severe mistake by making that statement. He did not give his people, the international community, or the banking system any confidence in his country or his economy. So let me focus on Mr. Pony's position about this whole thing. Mr. Kunney's position is that Liberia has structural problems that no matter who you put in that position will never be able to reverse those problems, that the president needs time, that it's not a human resource issue, that a lot of the advocates have been saying, remove Samuel Twe, I'm going to call names, remove Samuel Twe because he's not doing well. Remove this person, reshuffle your economy. reshuffle your cabinet. The reality of the issue is this, point blank. I'm not somebody that dances around the issue. The reality is this: when George Weah and his CDC guys came into power. They came ill prepared for the task at hand. They were not ready to govern this country. They were not prepared. They did not tap into the human resources of the bright minds in the CDC or the bright minds in the Liberian community. Instead, they took mediocre people that talk a good game and put them in various leadership positions. Give you a typical example, Samuel Twett. Samuel Twett talks a good game, but he's not a good finance person. Who the gentleman that we had as governor, the old man that was just recently retired, and apparently he got away with a $500,000 package. He didn't know what he was doing. So the banking system was a mess. Right now, our financial system is a mess. These guys took a country that had a reserve, I think, of 105,000 or more, and brought it down to hardly anything. They depleted the reserves, and not only did they deplete the reserves, they started going into our international partners' monies and talking about they were borrowing it. They gave, Samuel Twett gave some sort of fancy name for the, I guess he called it borrowing initiative. Now, nobody is saying that these guys should have come in and waved any magic wand, not at all. What everybody was saying, and everybody gave them a chance to do, was to come in and build on what Ellen Johnson Sirleaf them left. But instead, what did they do? They came in, monies that were brought into our country, the $16 billion that were brought into our country through the port and through the airport and through the seaport that they signed for in February and March, somehow that money got missing. And the story came out. When the story came out, what did Samuel Twett tell us? He told us no money was missing. Our Liberian people are stupid to think any money was missing, that they had infused the new banknotes into the market. Well, after a while, we realized that what was happening, our people were not getting any banknotes. Instead, they were getting the old banknotes that should have been torn up and gotten rid of. Later on, it got so bad recently that people couldn't find any money on the market. The Liberian dollar against the US dollar rate went sky high. It was going like a free fall. Then they put out this story that certain people had monies and were holding on to monies and they were changing it and so on and so forth. Then they said they were going to go and mop up this money. They took $25 million of our reserves and put it into a market in such a dubious way, through the black market, through people that didn't exist and all of that. And that went fiasco. There was no head nor tail in what they did with our $25 million. Okay?
Dr. Kulah,
yes.
can I hold you there a little bit?
So
No, hold on, Mr. Kunney, hold on. Dr. Kulah, you were talking about 25 million and then the 16 billion.
Right.
On the issue of the 16 billion, there are three officials of government I have heard from now who made a definite position on the 16 billion. One is the president. In his interview, the president said not a dime went missing when it comes to the 16 billion. Samuel Twett repeated that yesterday on the Jide Hatter, that a dime did not go missing. In fact, the case should be closed. And if you remember, the Justice Minister also said the same thing when the report had come from the Auditing Commission, and he was expected to have a press conference to give the position of the government. He said not a dime went missing. So why are you still talking this thing when your officials of government, have spoken on this issue that no money went missing? And even Twett went further by saying that the $2.5 billion that they were talking about, it was as a result of double counting. So not a dime went missing. What do you say to that?
The reason I'm saying this is because nobody has any confidence in anything that our leadership said. Nothing. If it wasn't for the journalists that leaked the story, we wouldn't have known that money came in. They claim they infused the money into the economy. If they infused the money into the economy, then why can't our people get any money? Why is it so difficult for our people to get money out of the teller machines, out of the bank? They go to, recently there was a story where a lady went to get her own money to pay a down payment on her child in the hospital, and she couldn't get any money. So you say all of this money is in the market. It's been infused in the market. No money was missing. How come our people cannot get their own money out of the bank? How come now they're saying that they want the legislators to pass a law to print and infuse, I believe, 4 billion Liberian dollars, And they also wanted them to print and infuse 30 some odd billion. He said, no money is missing. Why are we printing all this money? So there's something fishy going on. This leadership, this government has not been honest with the Liberian people. They like to spin. They like a lot of propaganda. They like a lot of lies. And the lies always comes back to bite them. And that's what's been going on.
Thank you, Mr. Kulah, Dr. Kulah, sorry. Mr. Kunney, you just listened to Dr. Kulah. What's your reaction to all that he said?
Yeah, you see, I listened to everything that Doc stated, and it further confirms the point I made earlier. First of all, I just want to clarify. I mean, it was not my position that the problems we have are so intractable, so that no matter who you put there, the problem cannot be solved. That was not my position. I say the problems we have are mostly structural in nature, such that one cannot come in and wave a magic wand in 1 year, 2 years to solve the problem. That was my position. And again, if you listen to Dr. Kulah, it's basically a recitation of what, you know, of what I said earlier. We are all pointing out the problems. And, you know, no one is telling us this is the alternative. It's like, well, this is wrong, that is wrong. And, you know, when we are discussing these national issues, we cannot ignore facts. It is not only the president that said there is no money missing. It is not only the justice minister that said there is no money missing. There were 2 investigative reports that confirmed that all of the money printed was accounted for. And like you rightfully stated, it was only $2 billion of that money that was not accounted for. So 2 investigative reports, one investigation done by the United States, one done by the Economic Crime Team, all confirmed that no money was missing. The $16 billion was accounted for. When it comes to the mop-up program, again, we have to do facts. There was no $25 million used in the mop-up. The mop-up from all verified reports used about $17 million. And again, the investigation has revealed that the amount of Liberian dollars that were mopped up from that exercise equals the amount of US dollar that was put in circulation. So these are the facts. We cannot question people's speculation. Anybody can speculate, but these are the basic facts.
Mr. Kulah, let me bring you to something in the report as we read with respect to the $25 million. Right. I'm sure you read a report. In the report, the report said there were institutions listed by the economic management team in their report that they had dealt with, that they have given certain amount of money. These institutions, some of these institutions are money exchange bureaus. But when the investigator contacted the institutions and individuals, many of them said, no, I was never contacted by the economic management team. Nobody gave me money whatsoever. So people are saying crime may have been committed right there. So how can you explain that to somebody that nothing went wrong?
No. Yeah. Again, my position is that there was no crime committed. My position here is that how would we say there was no crime committed when there was a referral from the Liberian Anti-Corruption Agency to conduct criminal investigation? Okay. So nobody is saying that there is no crime committed. What we're saying, there is no $16 billion missing. Yeah. 2 investigations have confirmed that $16 billion is not missing. Now, with regard to the mopping up, mind you, this mopping up, you know, the other less than truthful way people discuss this issue is to present the economic management team as some formal structure of government, you know, that take instructions, that pass instruction. The economic management team comprises of the entities of government that deal with the economy. The direct mopping up of this money was done by the National Bank, the Central Bank of Liberia. It was not done by Samuel Twe. Samuel Twe, they didn't put money in a car, or Ministry of Finance people put money in a car going from place to place. The mopping up was done. The mopping up was done by the Central Bank of Liberia. The alleged malpractices you're talking about are malpractices that were uncovered from the activities of central bank employees. And these are the malpractices that are being investigated. So that is different from saying $16 billion is missing. That is different from saying $25 billion mop-up went in fact. The amount that was used in the mop-up is now $25 million. So let's stick to the facts, and then we can have the other discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Kunney, pushing you a little bit here.
Right.
We are aware the entire 25 billion the government informed us was not used. They used 17 according to the report as well.
So
but
let's correct ourselves with the 25 million. Let's dispense with the 20. It's not 25 million. Let's stick to the 17 million.
So speaking to the 17 million, you just agree that there's no way we can say no crimes were committed, given what the report said that institutions were there. So the thing is that the economic management team that playing the supervisory role up to now cannot hold any of the honor men accountable for the wrongs that the report pointed out. They can't find somebody because up to now no one has been held accountable. Okay, why is that so?
See, let me make my final. This is why I disagree with you. The economic management team is not a government infrastructure. And I agree. Where you have somebody passing down instruction to people below. The economic management team comprises of line ministries and entities of the government that deal with economic issues. Each of them that function independently. You understand? So
I understand that. But there are leaders
disagree with that. And if you can let me interject here, I disagree with what he's saying. What I see Mr. Kunney trying to do, he's trying to absolve Samuel Toy of any responsibility. The way the economic management team is structured, Samuel Toy heads the economic management team, and Samuel Toy was the one giving all the information as to how this money was dispersed into the economy. So he knows the structure that he set up to disperse this money into the economy. So there has to be some responsibility for it. If we were in America, in a decent country, in a real country, Samuel Toy would have either been fired or he would have had to resign based on the way they infused that 17 million into the economy. And as far as the 16 billion is concerned, they claim no money is missing. But what is the reality? What are the facts? Why are our people not able to access money? If that money,
but that doesn't mean money is missing.
Why are people having problem accessing that money? Why?
Okay.
You tell me.
So, let me share something with you. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I will come to you. I will come to you very quickly, please. I will come to you. Again, folks in cyberspace, if you just join us, this is Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics, with me here, Anthony Sear. I have with me Dr. Kulah and Mr. Wilmot Kunney. I don't know why I tried to give you a doctorate degree, Mr. Kunney.
No, I beg you. Don't put me in a legally die. I haven't reached that level yet.
Yeah, you are talking about responsibility here, and from what I'm getting from you, you try to say that the economic management team is comprised of institutions that have individual responsibility but function as a unit. Now, here's the thing. Let's look at Bowie. You know, Bowie is a company based in the United States that manufacture airplanes. The manufacturer, one of their newest brand is the Bowie 737-800 Max. That plane, the software that can help the plane to fly has some problem. The CEO of that company had no role to play in the manufacturing or the technical work out of that particular software. But guess what has happened? He has resigned because as head of that entity, he failed to provide a unique leadership role that should have gotten to the bottom of what went wrong. Okay. So this is what we are saying. How can you just excuse the head of the economic management team when in fact he's failing to hold honor men accountable who have done something wrong?
Okay, so can I come in? Can I come in?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's use an analogy.
Okay.
The CEO of Boeing resigned because of the byproducts that Boeing produced.
Right.
The CEO of Airbus didn't resign, even though Boeing, Airbus, and other aircraft manufacturing companies may be part of some kind of association. But
No, you're wrong. Airbus and Boeing are not associated with what's going on.
Dr. Kulah, can you give me time, please?
Stick
Dr.
with
Kulah, you will
Boeing.
come in. Dr.
Stick
Kulah,
with
you will come
Boeing.
in. Dr. Kulah,
I
you will come in.
said Airbus, Boeing, and other aircraft manufacturing companies may be.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Mr.
You're
Kulah,
wrong.
hold your peace.
Stick
I will
with
come to you.
Boeing.
Yeah.
Stick with Boeing.
Yes.
In your
I'm
analysis,
saying-
stick with Boeing. Airbus
Hold
is
on, Dr.
different.
Kulah.
Other
Dr. Kulah,
aircraft
hold on.
manufacturers are different. Stick with Boeing.
Dr. Kulah, you gotta give me a chance to learn.
Yeah, but
I'm
stick with
telling you-
Boeing. Don't
telling-
conflict the issue. Stick with Boeing.
I'm telling you, Boeing, the chief executive officer of Boeing resigned because he's responsible for Boeing. Dr. Kulah's argument that he's making is that we should fire Mr. Samuel Tuer for malpractices that took place in Central Bank. That's the argument. And that's the argument I'm disagreeing with. Samuel Tuer does not control the Central Bank. Samuel Tuer does not pass instruction to people working in Central Bank. The Central Bank of Liberia is an independent entity, and all of its operation, whether with the economic management team or on its own, should be guided by their own due diligence.
That's wrong.
I'm
Dr. Kulah, let you will come in.
Dr. Kulah, let me tell you something. Let me give you an example because Dr. Kulah, I have worked in government. Let me give you an example. In my former role as a national security director, there is something they call the Joint Security Commission of the Republic of Liberia that is headed by the Justice Ministry. That joint security brings in all security heads. If they bring us together and there is a security operation, they say, police, you do this based on your specialty. And the police screw up, the director of police is responsible. You're not saying that because the police screw up, we'll go fire the justice minister who got nothing to do with police matters.
If the justice minister was the one who directed the whole process and
But
was
I'm telling
the whole process,
Dr. Kulah,
he
Dr.
came
Kulah,
up with the whole process, he
Dr.
would
Kulah,
be held responsible.
Dr. Kulah,
If the justice minister issued a
Mr.
directive
Kulah,
and
hold
said,
on. Let
as
Dr.
head
Kulah
of
respond.
joint security, I want the police to go and block the road here. And if these guys try to pass, I need the police to fire tear gas and whatnot. And it turns into a riot because of his directive. He would be responsible. As head of the economic management team, which Samuel Tuer is, he is the one who put that structure together to infuse that money into the economy, and he is responsible.
Okay. Mr. Sia, again, look, and this is what I'm saying. The new advocacy in Liberia is human resource argument. Let's get rid of people and the problem will be solved. And we are seeing it here.
What make you to think
Let's get rid of those who are responsible for the problem. Let's get rid of mediocre people. Why should we keep mediocre people?
Dr. Kulah, I give you a chance to learn. You gotta give me a chance to learn. You can't just cut me up at every point.
One at a time, gentlemen. One at a time, please. Let the conversation be civil. One at a time. Go ahead, Mr.
What I'm
Kunney.
saying again, the dog is in error because he's under the belief that Samuel Tuer directs the National Bank. It is profoundly false. Samuel Tuer does not direct the National Bank. Samuel Tuer does not direct the Ministry of Commerce. These are independent entities that come to manage the economy of Liberia from their expert position and proceed to execute economic policies of the government based on their area of concentration. If there is a screw up, the heads of those agencies are responsible. The National Bank don't work for Samuel Tuer.
All right.
They're not
All right. Dr. Kunney, let leave it there. Let me get him.
You're wrong. You're wrong. Yeah. In the case where, for example, we're not going to move forward. In the case where, for example, when we had Ebola, we had a task force that handled the Ebola situation. And whoever was head of that task force that handled Ebola, whether he broke it down into the Ministry of Health, the National Institutes of Health, or gender or whatever, whoever was responsible for putting together the policies and procedures of the Ebola task force, as head of the Ebola task force, if anything goes wrong under his directive, he is responsible. It's different from saying, okay, the central bank has certain monetary policies that they deal with. Okay, they deal with their policy. Finance ministry has their policies that deal, fine. But when you come to a situation where we had a problem and they put together what is called an economic management team. And that economic management team has a head who put out a report stating what he did, what structures he put in place to get the mop-up done. And something fails in that process that he put in place, he is responsible.
All of your premises are wrong. All the premises are wrong. You proceeding from the wrong premise.
Your premise is wrong. Your premise is wrong.
Gentlemen,
we're talking about
right
a
there.
situation where the CBL is doing something, the finance minister is doing something.
Gentlemen, let leave it right there. Let leave it right there. Gentlemen, let leave it right there. Again, folks, in cyberspace, as you can see, the debate is getting more and more interesting. Again, I have with me Dr. Kulah, and I have with me Mr. Kunney, and we are discussing national issue here on the Hour of Politics here at Focus on Liberia. Gentlemen, I think we have many things to discuss, so let us now go back and forth on the issue of the 25 million. Let's leave it right now, but this is what I will conclude with, and then we'll go to the next issue. We cannot be mixing apple and oranges. As a task force, the economic management team is a task force, and it has a head. If you read the Kulah report spelled out quite distinctly that Mr. Tue is the chairman of the economic management team. We are not talking about central bank. It is a task force that he having to be a head of. And as a responsible leader, if there are questions about the honor man who might have done some wrong, it is the responsibility of that leader to hold the honor man responsible, accountable for whatever might have gone wrong. But up to now, nothing has happened, and it only hurts our country because the news about this money, it has damaged the reputation of the country. Gentlemen, I know we can't all agree on the issues, but let's move forward to the next segment in this conversation. And the next segment is December 30th peaceful protest. You go first, Mr. Kunney. The December 30th peaceful protest has raised a lot of argument. Some people for it, some people against it. Some people say it's going to bring war. Where do you stand on December 30th?
Well, as a matter of general principle, I respect the rights of people to assemble and petition the government, just as the Constitution calls for. So if any group of Liberians want to exercise their constitutional right to assemble and petition their elected representatives as to whatever grievances that they may have, I don't have any opposition to that.
What's about concerns that this may plunge the nation into another civil war?
I don't share that. Well, again, I can't speak to that because I don't know what the organizers are planning to do. And this is why I'm giving you the caveat. If the purpose of the assembly is in line with the Constitution, that they are assembling to present their grievances to their elected representatives, if that's what they are seeking to do, I don't see any potential for war in that.
And why are you using the word if? You don't know what they are saying?
Oh, because there are, we've heard from some of them, from some of the organizers, that the purpose of the protest is to occupy the seat of government until the president steps down. That is an entirely different issue.
That is not true.
Okay, if it is not true, then we don't have a debate.
All right, Dr. Kulah, hold on that. So, Mr. Kunney, another thing other people who are not in favor of the protest have said is that for members of the COP or some individual Liberians who support the protest to be saying that the president should step down. Some people are saying it's unconstitutional for somebody to express that. Do you share that belief, or what's your feel about it?
I don't. Individuals have the right to say whatever they want to say. You have the right to say you want the president to step down. You have the right to say the president must be fired. You have the right to say whatever you want to say. The problem I have, the problem the place where I think you crosses the line. If you say I'm going to occupy a specific government institution and entity until the president comes down, then man, you're not only expressing, it is not expression. You are taking actions in support of the desired income.
Can you ask Mr. Kunney where he heard
Dr.
that
Kulah,
from?
hold on. I will come to you, Dr. Kulah.
No, ask Mr. Kunney where he heard anybody say they will occupy the seat until the president stepped down.
The
Yeah, you will
permission
come to
letter,
that. During your time, you will
permission letter.
speak to that. Yeah, I was just about to ask you, in the Constitution said that people have the right to assemble. The Constitution did not provide any time frame, any time limit, does not give a specific time. So don't you think they have the right to say we're going to stay here for the next 2 days, 3 days, or week, if at all they are present there is not a hindrance to other Liberians?
Okay, good question. Also be mindful that the Constitution gave the government the responsibility to maintain law and order. So who defines that their assembly is not violating the rights of other people? How is that defined? Who defined it? Is it the protester that defined it? Is it the agency that is supposed to regulate our behavior within the democracy that defines it? So we gotta be careful with these extremist
Don't you
positions.
think the Constitution defines it, Mr. Kunney?
That's what I'm saying. The same Constitution gave the government the responsibility to maintain law and order. So in the interest of law and order, the government can regulate you and myself behavior. They can regulate you and myself conduct. The Constitution is not just one-sided.
And why, if government in her effort of regulating others violates the Constitution, then
then you take the government to court. Then you take the government to court to assert your rights.
Thank you, Mr. Kunney. Thank you. Mr. Kulah, I saw you earlier shaking your head and you were in complete disagreement. So where do you stand on the December 30th protest, given all that others are saying about it?
Where I stand on this position is where I stood in my last debate.
Okay.
Liberians have the right and the freedom to assemble, the freedom of movement, and the freedom of speech. Where Mr. Kunney and I agree is the fact that Liberians are able to say the president should step down, the president should resign, the president should leave the presidency and whatnot. But they do not have the right to do anything by force to make him leave the presidency. Now, Mr. Kunney claims that he heard that people will occupy the seat of government until the president leaves. Now, when you hear that, and when you hear stuff that Mr. Y. Michael Gilman is saying on his show, saying that Kulah said he would burn down the airport, Kulah said that he would drag the president, Kulah said he would give men, rebels, guns and whatnot, and he's bringing war. And so they led a protest against that and went to the Liberian embassy and presented a petition. They had people march in Monrovia saying no war and so on and so forth. It's dangerous when we do that because we're conflating the issues. They took what Kulah said related to him coming to Liberia and being arrested and what he would do if he was arrested, and what Kulah said related to when his radio stations were burglarized twice, and he said he was going to get men with single barrel guns to mine his radio station so that nobody would burglarize it. When you start conflating and spinning and pushing propaganda to make one group of Liberians look bad because they're leading a protest, and you start beating this war drum, it looks like we're not sensible people, because protest doesn't bring war. Nobody has ever protested and brought war. So if Kulah said they're going to lead a protest and assemble like they did on June 7th, where it was a very peaceful protest, they petitioned their government. Their government apparently did not come and receive that petition, and to this day have done nothing about their petition, has said nothing about their petition. The only thing that the president ever said related to anything close to that petition was when he said he would look into what Mobile Molu then said, which was very similar to what the June 7 protesters said.
Dr. Kulah.
So let's stop conflating issues and making people look like they're trying to create trouble, and stop beating this war drum. Nobody is bringing war.
Dr. Kulah.
Yes.
Can I
You
come in
just
there?
said, hold on, Mr. Kunney. Dr. Kulah, you just said protest does not bring any war. Not that I agree with this, but there are many Liberians who continue to have this belief that the 1979 riot led to the Civil War. That is one. Hold on. And then there are others that believe that it was protests that started in Libya and subsequently degenerated into a civil war. And today we don't have Muammar Gaddafi. So when you say protest does not bring war, somebody might be wondering, where is he coming from? What would be your defense?
My defense is this. Related to the 1979 rice riot. When they had that rice riot in 1979, these were peaceful Liberian citizens marching against the increase in the price of rice. Those people had no weapons. They had no ability to kill anybody. They had no ability to bring war. What happened? Somebody in the police got trigger happy and shot within the crowd, killing some people in the crowd. These people who were protesting were the sons and daughters and the wives of military people. So the military did not want to do anything to harm their people. As a result, the president at the time had no faith in the military. What did he do? They called the Guineans and others to come in and have somewhat like a state of emergency. There were other issues boiling in Liberia that eventually led to the coup. It was not necessary protest. When you're afraid of protest and you're afraid of, people bringing what happened to Gaddafi, his situation was totally different. There was stuff going on in Benghazi, where I believe there was a rebel group in Benghazi where the American ambassador and the rest of them got involved in there. And I think they burned down the consulate over there in Benghazi. So all that stuff was going on before that riot, or actually that protest that led into a riot that eventually went and captured Gaddafi and killed him. So I think we're conflating two different issues. These people have a precedent. They had a June 7th protest, which was a very peaceful protest. Nothing happened. They went there, they did their thing, they laughed and joked with the police officers, they gave each other water and whatnot. Had anybody shot in that crowd or started whipping those people, what was a peaceful protest would have turned into a violent riot. So if anybody has the responsibility to maintain the peace, is those who have the guns, is the government and the people around the president who are telling him all kinds of conspiracy theories. Oh, don't let people protest. You let them protest, they will do this. They will try to move you. They'll try to do this. They'll try to do that. As far as I'm concerned, and I told the June 7th, they did the same thing. They said, oh, my man, they're trying to take our government, trying to move our government. Young guys who never have power, not have power, they have money, they're afraid to lose it. They started putting out all kinds of conspiracy theories. I told them, I said, gentlemen, I bet you anything, what these boys are trying to prove is that we're in the 2-year span has lost the kind of popularity that he used to have. He has squandered his political capital, but nobody's trying to move the
Dr. Kulah, let's come to Mr. Kunney.
No.
Mr.
Mr. Sia, let me just make one point before we leave it there. Because this point is very important.
I was just coming to you.
Oh, okay. This point is very important. And as I indicated earlier, we have to take facts into consideration when we discuss the issues of our country, no matter where we stand. I hear Dr. Kulah talking about people beating war drums. But here is the case, though, that you hear a very popular talk show host who continuously advocate violence on a network. Even the most peaceful action taken by the government, he mobilizes his supporters to confront the government with force, like the closing down of the radio station. Mind you, the closing down of the radio station was to be executed by court officers, not even members of the Liberia National Police, but court officers, people from the court, en route to execute a legal judicial order. And this guy mobilized his supporters to prevent those court officers from executing that court order, thereby involving the police to protect the court officers.
So you're wrong again. When you're talking about facts, let's
Hold on, Dr. Kulah, let him land.
You're
wrong.
wrong.
Have the opportunity to respond, Dr. Kulah. Let him land.
By your own admission, you have a popular talk show host who is on air talking about getting guns. If something is done to him, let us agree that in a democracy, when your rights are infringed upon, it is not for you to talk about guns. It's for you to go to the court and exercise your rights. So it is Costa that is beating war drums. It's not the people of Liberia that are beating war drums. By his utterances, what gave him the right to say that he can put going anybody here in Liberia? What gave him that right to say that?
I'll tell you what gives him that right to say that. The same thing that called, and you're spinning again, Mr. Kunney.
I'm not spinning.
It wasn't court officers that went to close down Mr. Costa's radio station.
The original officers were court officers.
Who led the group to go and close down Mr. Costa's radio station? Wasn't it an ex-rebel, General Power? It was General Power.
You talk,
gentlemen, one at a time.
It was General Power. General Power leading a group of people going to close down.
Mr. Kulah here has come with an established position that he wants to ignore.
Established position. The pictures were there. The evidence is there. People took.
It's not the point. I'm telling you.
Going to close down the radio station.
Again, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia on our program, the Hour of Politics with me, Anson Sia. As you can see, our conversation is getting very interesting. This is what we do here on this network, Focus on Liberia, especially on this program, the Hour of Politics. We bring the people together, and when they disagree, we give them the opportunity to express themselves in a way that will have you informed on where they stand on the issue. Gentlemen, I'm coming back to you. I don't want you to get mad with me. If I'm calling you to order, come to order, or else I'll mute you to put things under control.
Thank you.
Dr. Kulah, you were in flight, land, and then Mr. Kunney, you will come in.
You see, I was saying Mr. Kunney is conflating issues again.
Yeah.
When the people went to close down Costa's radio station, General Power does not work for the Liberian government. General Power is an ex-rebel. He led a group of people going to shut down Costa's radio station. It wasn't court order people going with court documents. It was an extrajudicial type of situation where General Power led a group of people that went and closed down the radio station, followed by, I believe, police with arms and all of that. Okay, that's one. Number two, you said Costa doesn't have the right to mention anything about arms. This man's radio station was burglarized at night. His security guards were put at gunpoint. The government did nothing about it. Instead, they allowed their propagandists, Wild Michael Gilman, to be putting out propaganda out there and saying that Costa is the one burglarized his own radio station. And the boy said, the next time anybody come to my radio station, the government is not willing to protect me, I will give people single barrel guns to protect my radio station. So he's not beating war drum. The people that are beating war drum are the people who say by leading a peaceful protest, which he has precedence for, that somehow it will bring war. Those are the people that are beating war drum. The people that are beating war drums are the people that say because this man is too popular, he's dangerous. Those are the people that are beating war drums. The people that are beating war drums are the ones that are saying because this man is popular, we got to show him sense. We got to arrest him. People, do you know that people were disappointed? People like Michael Gilman were disappointed that Costa wasn't arrested. Those are the people that are beating war drums.
Dr. Kulah.
Yes.
You said that there was no court order because I read the court order. If you can remember, you follow the issues. They talk about siege and seizure, right? I mean, siege.
Search and seizure.
Search and seizure. Okay, thank you. All right. So there was a search warrant and also to seize the equipment, and the equipment was seized. That article can be it's on Front Page Africa. So I mean, I just want to point out to you that actually there was a court order.
Okay, if there was a court order,
right,
the way it's supposed to be, right? When you come for a search and seizure, weren't they supposed to document everything that they took from the people's radio station and allow whoever was a manager there to be there and watch what they were taking and sign off on it? They didn't allow that. They went outside the court and did whatever, took the man equipment and probably destroyed it and never brought the man equipment back because they wanted to shut him down forever. There was no due process in that situation. And why was General Powell there? Does General Powell work for the courts? Does General Powell work for the courts? Why was he there?
Let's go to Mr. Kunney. Mr. Kunney, your response.
I'm laughing because I see how it is very easy for us to adopt a sanctimonious attitude on violence when it's on one side and decry it on the other. What is uncontested is the fact that there was a judicial order that was given to court officers to go and serve. Mr. Costa, being aware that court officers were going to effect this order, mobilized his supporters to prevent that.
That's not true.
Oh, Mama, you can't give me a chance. How long you said that it's not true?
Dr. Kulah, please hold.
I can't continue the discussion. You can't
to add to what Mr. Kunney is saying, because I'm the moderator here, and here I focus on Liberia, and here on this program, Our Politics, we are about the facts.
Right.
If you can remember,
please check him.
Listen now,
Please
Mr.
check
Kulah,
him when he's putting in stuff that are not the facts. Please do that.
Mr. Kulah, it's now your turn. On that very day, Costa was live saying, instructing people that they should not allow them to enter. Is that not true? Anyway,
so based on that, the government has to send police.
Mr. Kunney, go ahead.
So, Mr. Sia, thank you. Again, Dr. Kulah is talking about the aftermath. I'm not talking about the aftermath. A law-abiding citizen, your responsibility is to yield to the law, whether you think your right is violated or not. You have recourse to court. You can't proceed from a position that because you think that your right is going to be violated, and you yourself you resort to illegal methods. There was a court order that was supposed to be served by court officers, and Mr. Costa mobilized his supporters to resist. It is the call for resistance that drove his supporters, that drove other people that were not even connected, including the power man you're talking about. You're talking about the aftermath. What we say, look, if we want for our country to be peaceful, we have to all submit to the rule of law. The issue you're talking about is supposed to count the equipment, everything. Yes, those are things will be done if you willingly surrender to the search. You can't mobilize your supporters to prevent a legal search, and then under the same breath you can say, oh, they didn't check my equipment. You created a violent thing.
What was legal about the search? Why was the search issued?
It was ordered by the court.
Why was the search issued to begin with?
All right, gentlemen.
It was ordered by the court. You have
because
the right.
Of what?
No, it doesn't matter. You challenge that in court.
What did they do for the court to order a search and seizure of equipment at a radio station?
So you contest that in court. You don't mobilize hooligans to prevent the execution of the court order. You don't do that in America. They
all
can
right,
go to your
folks,
even if you believe that the rate is immaterial, you don't mobilize your family member to prevent the search. You go to court and fight for your rights.
All right, let's come to another dimension on the issue. Hold on, I will come to you. Let's come to another dimension.
So we'll break the country down because nothing works in your view.
Mr. Kunney, hold it there. Let's come to another dimension. We are talking about protest. You both agree that it is the right of any and every Liberian or a group of Liberians to have a peaceful protest. You agree on that. That is good. And you also agree on the legality of the protest. That is also good. But some people who are saying that continue to say protest can bring war, I don't agree with that as an individual. If protest does not bring war, if we can agree, then what may possibly bring about war? That's one question. The other question is, why is it important that we encourage protest as guaranteed under the Constitution? Why is it important that we need to allow it? We should all accept it. Why? You go first. Dr. Kulah, go first.
Well, basically, I think we should allow protesting because we have a history in our country of suppressing our people, while people had no avenue to voice out their frustrations. And I think if you have people voicing out their frustration in the open, it prevents us from going back to war. But if you're in a situation where you're suppressing the people and you're doing extrajudicial things like closing people's radio station down, arresting people, you know, chasing people out of the country and doing all kinds of stuff like that, you drive people underground and you end up with a situation that we had before. So we don't want to go back to that, you know? And I still want to ask the question, why was it possible for a court to issue a search and seizure on a radio station, all because the radio station is opposing the president or critical to the president? You know, what makes that right? Why should we allow that? Why nobody voicing an opinion against that? Why the Council of Churches never came out and spoke against that? We cannot allow that to happen in our society over and over again without anybody saying nothing. I think it's wrong.
Thank you, Dr. Kulah. Mr. Kulah, let me come to you. The importance of protest as not only a right, but as an ingredient of our democracy. Why is it important that we all allow that to happen?
Yeah, before I answer that, I just want to express this very serious disappointment with Dr. Kulah because he feels that our systems don't work, the judicial system don't work, so all we have to do is to break the system down.
I didn't say that. Putting words in my mouth. I didn't say that.
Dr. Kulah, please.
I didn't say that.
Kulah,
I didn't say we should break down the system because the system didn't work. I'm saying,
Dr. Kulah, please let him respond.
Mr. Moderator, can I be protected here?
Yeah, you are protected. Go ahead.
Yeah. Dr. Kulah, by his inference, is basically stating that because our judicial system don't work, the government don't work, so everything need to be broken down. If you follow his line of questioning, why you saying you keep asking me, why was the radio station closed? It's immaterial to me. What is material to me is that a judicial order was issued, whether rightly or wrongly, all the respondent had to do was to challenge the legality of that order. Mobilizing people to resist the order is something that Dr. Kulah should denounce. He should denounce that.
So now respond to the question, why is it important that we encourage protests?
So protest is essential for the same reason. The people that you govern, there must be an avenue for them to express, for them to give feedback, for them to tell you how they feel. But mind you, again, the Constitution is very clear as to how we should do it. We should assemble and we should present our grievances to our elected representatives. The Constitution didn't tell you after you presented grievances what to do next. They just say present it to your representatives. If you begin now to extend what the Constitution gave you, this is why we run into problems. The Constitution says you're elected representative. You saying you will not present your grievances until the president appears. The Constitution didn't say the president might appear. The Constitution didn't say if the president is compelled to appear before you give your grievances. Give your grievances to your elected representatives. That's all you are required to do. Either they go by what they say, what you say, or they don't. If they don't go by what you say, your next option is to vote them out in the next election.
Thank you.
People, this is what we have to do. To encourage anything otherwise is to direct our country to a failed nation status.
Thank you, Mr. Kunney. Dr. Kulah, your final saying on this, and the question for that is that two wrongs can make a right. If Mr. Costa is being served a court warrant, don't you think the prudent thing to do, even if he disagree with that, is to allow it to go on saying that was an order from the court, and then after that, he can go and challenge it in the very court. And if the court deny him and maybe he can get a lawyer, don't you think that's the right thing to do? Because what we are trying to prevent here is violence in our dissent. What do you say to that?
Have you unmuted me?
Yeah, yes, you are unmuted.
In a perfect world, in a country like the United States, where people uphold the law, where the justice system works, where the president doesn't go around picking on people that he thinks are opposed to him, yes, people will do that. They will go by the law. But in most cases where systems don't work, people will disobey unjust laws, and the systems break down. The systems break down in a society like that, and we end up with a failed society. Liberia is a failed nation, whether you want to accept it or not. It's been a failed nation for a very long time because those in power do not obey. Those in power do not obey the law. They don't respect the law. They do their own thing, and therefore nobody wants to respect the law. And you have the system breakdown because of that. But until we start to obey the law and respect the law and respect people, then you will have what you want, what you're saying, that Costa by right should have gone and contested what was happening to him. But what was the genesis of the whole thing? First, they started jamming the man's radio station. After they jammed his radio station, then they started finding all kinds of things to do. Next thing you know, they come up with this search and seizure thing to close down his radio station. Why? Because the same people that were beating the war drums were the same people saying, shut him down, he's getting too popular, he's critical to you, and so on and so forth. We can't do that. It's wrong on both sides. I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kulah. And then final question on this segment. Yeah, hold on, let me come in. I'll bring in a question. Final segment. The thing is that, gentlemen, we are trying to find how we can engage each other civilly and also using the law. What we also notice is that the government is more like trying to target individuals who are in opposition. This one is for you, Mr. Kunney. The first example was Telia Yuri. Her business was searched also. The government, I don't say the government does not have a right to do so, but the government went there and then it came to Costa. And these are opposition figures. We do not have that much record of other individuals. I don't know, maybe these people they are in the opposition, that why it went why, but I mean that's the history. Why is that so? Don't you think it makes the government to look at those she's going after her political rivals?
Again, there is a serious point here that I think viewers should understand. And I continue to express disappointment by Dr. Kulah's assertion that because our country, the systems are not working, things are not perfect. So what we need to do as Liberia is to keep the country as a failed nation.
You can't keep putting words in my mouth. I'm not going to accept.
We should not strive to live by the rule of law, because the system of justice in Liberia is not like the system that is in the United States. I strongly disagree with that. I want to believe that in Liberia, we must first of all commit ourselves to living under the rule of law. Whether we have a perfect judicial system or not, it is our responsibility to make it perfect. For any Liberian to suggest that because our institutions and our system are imperfect, so lawlessness and disorderly behavior should be encouraged at any level, is seriously disappointing.
I never said that. You're wrong again. People will disobey unjust laws. That's human nature.
Refusing a court order is not unjust law. It comes from the court, you challenge it in a court. It's not unjust law. So you just plain wrong on that. So back to your question, again, I don't know the complete story of Telia's involvement with the Ministry of Commerce, but my reading of what transpired was that her business was among several other businesses that was visited by the ministry. And in fact, her business decided to reach an agreement with the Ministry of Commerce with regard to, whatever violation that may have occurred. So one or two things are happening here. Either we're making a statement that politicians should not be touched no matter what violation they commit because they are politicians, or we highlight them because they are politicians. There were many other, according to the story, there were many other businesses that the Commerce Ministry targeted at that point in time. And the owners of those businesses, maybe we didn't hear about them because they're not politicians. But it would be completely wrong for the government to target its enforcement mechanism on an individual because of a political view. But again, my reading of the story that it was not political. The entity, they did reach an agreement with the Ministry of Commerce, and the rest of the people are just carrying it around because You know, she is a politician. I want to believe if Talia had not contested the representative position, probably you and I would not even would not have this scenario.
All right, we don't know that for a fact. Dr. Kulah, again, I have to come to you because you wanted an opportunity to respond, and that will be the final on this segment. Then we'll go to our last segment. And then after you, hold on, Dr. Kulah, after you, we will read comments from our viewers who are participating by writing. My question to you is, don't you see Mr. Henry Costa rhetorics to be very, very toxic? You follow him. I listen to him all the time because I'm in the business now. I need to follow those who make the news so that I know what they're saying and what's going on. Costa rhetoric, somebody would think completely toxic. What you say to that, and then you can make the comment you wanted to make earlier.
Yes, in some instances, Costa's rhetoric can be very toxic. Costa's rhetoric can tend to get the temperature very, very high in the society. And the reason I think it is, again, goes back to the discussion that we're having here. Mr. Kunney keeps putting words in my mouth, and I'm disappointed in you that instead of you deal with what I'm saying, you're saying that you're disappointed in me because of the position I'm taking. The position I'm taking is simply this. In any society where the system is not right, you will have a breakdown in law and order. That doesn't mean that I support it. That doesn't mean that it's right, but that's what happens. And you, Mr. Kunney, have to accept that fact that in our country, the reason why the system breaks down every time is because we don't have a correct system. We have an imperial presidency. We have a presidency that goes after their enemies or their perceived enemies, and they take the laws into their own hand. And as a result, people disobey the law because they believe it's unjust laws. And I'm not saying it's right. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but that's what happens in a society that does not have people who obey the law, starting with the top down. That's my position, and I stand by it.
Thank you. Again, folks, in cyberspace, if you are just joining us, we want to take the time to welcome you to the Hour of Politics on this network, focus on Liberia. I am your humble host, Anthony Sia. We have with us two outstanding guests, Mr. Wilmot Kunney and Dr. Kulah, and they have been going at it on our 4 major focus point of discussion, and we are trying to give analysis of 4 key national issues. Gentlemen, let's go to our viewers, our audience who have been participating with us. Let's read some comments there. All right, we have Larry Davis, Liberia is a failed state. Otavio Menge. Thanks, Dr. Kulah. Otavio Menge again, no, I didn't say that we should keep the country as a failed nation. Nathaniel Saki, Dr. Kulah is one of those many persons who don't want good out of Liberia. And Mohammed Khan writes, Mr. Kunney, what do you make of the ongoing leak audio in CDC? We are coming to that. Hold your peace right there. And Mr. Jesse Jada writes, you are so right, Dr. Kulah. And the both of you right there getting support from our viewers. I think that is a good thing. And again, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics with me, Anthony Sia. Gentlemen, we are about to go into our final segment of the conversation. In this segment, we'll be talking about the ruling party in turmoil, and also there is a leak audio. We will combine the two and go right into it. And so starting with you on this one, Dr. Kulah, Chairman Momba Molu had a press conference recently in which he made a lot of news. And what he said in that press conference, he sounded more like somebody in the opposition. Momba Molu in that press conference said, this is embarrassing and shameful for the socio-economic disparity to continue to widen between the haves and have-nots. While we are expected to be silent, the CDC cannot and will not remain silent if the problem is too against yesterday begin to resurface in the governance corridors of today. We cannot forget so soon that the existence of this government is a product of the many years of sacrifice, commitment, and selfless resilience of millions of ordinary Liberians who simply desire good governance and a departure from the political excesses of the past. So Mumba Molu read there, and he also made some recommendation amongst which he said there must be a reshuffle of the government, even though the president said he's not going to reshuffle. And now there is a leaked audio. So first of all, let's talk about the recommendations. What's your impression?
My impression is simply that Mobile Molu is now saying what those in the opposition and those of us who see the government for what it is have been saying forever. Okay, when this government came into power, a lot of people knew these guys were not ready for leadership. We knew that George Weah is not presidential material. He didn't have any executive leadership skills. He had no real vision for the country. We knew that he really had no real structure in his life in terms of going to an office or guiding anything per se. And all we knew was that he was a popular guy, and these guys were going to ride his coattail into power. And then once they got there, perhaps they would look for those guys that were you know, had the abilities and had the technical know-how and the skills, and they would put them in the various positions to lead. But instead, what it became was a deal where people were exchanging positions for either money or for favors or for whatever. So you had a situation where we had a foreign minister that had no background in foreign or international relations whatsoever. He admitted it, but our lawmakers still confirmed him. We have a guy at information for public affairs, Eugene Fagon, who just recently graduated with a political science degree. He claims he has 4 associate's degree, which made absolutely no sense. He was working his girlfriend African store, and you put him over there to be more or less the PR man for the government, but instead he's attacking the opposition constantly. So it made for such a chaotic government. And then on top of that, it seemed like the president and those around him that came into power were in a rush to accumulate wealth and accumulate property. So you had the president building the 47 villas, the theater, the church, buying property and so on and so forth, riding private jets at $17,000 an hour. You had him hosting events where he raised, I think, $300,000 for Jefferson Koji, had one of his portrait where a businessman bought it for $50,000. So it became a money thing. He put his wife in the budget, gave her $1.5 million of Liberian government money over the 2-year period that they've been in power. And Mobile Molu and others were looking at it like, hey, this is not what we came to power for. We came to make the lives of the poor people better, but instead the people were struggling. The Liberian dollar against the US dollar rate was going sky high. Food prices were high. The inflation rate was out of control at 35%. And the president and those around him didn't seem to care. And I think Mobile Molu and others were kind of ostracized. And so they got to a point where they felt like, we're not going to let this guy destroy the party and destroy us. So we're going to speak up. And that's what they did. They honestly spoke up and spoke the truth. Now, the audio leakage proves that they were talking from their heart and talking the truth. Now they've patched up their differences and they're trying to spin it. But the reality is out there that the president has not been governing the way we all thought he would. We really thought he would make a difference for the poor people. And it seems like it's been all about him and those around him as far as what they could get. And that's what Mobile Molu said, and it's true.
Dr. Kulah, before I go to Mr. Kunney, I would need a yes or no question on this one. Mm-hmm. Does Mobile Molu deserve any credit for the way he spoke?
Yes, he does deserve credit for the way he spoke.
Thank you.
Regardless of the motivation, he does deserve credit, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Kunney, you listening to Mobile Molu press conference, or you just listening to Dr. Kulah? What's your impression?
Well, quite frankly, some of the issues raised by Mobile Molu are quite significant, and these are issues that are shared by all Liberians, whether you support the CDC or not. So I think there is some legitimacy to some of the issues that he raised. With regard to the leaked video, I'm a little bit disappointed that for somebody of a stature that is in that level of positioning to have engaged in that kind of talk. I think it bespeak of lack of judgment. You see, one thing we have to recognize as decent is that we should try to be careful with information that we acquire about someone based on access. Information that you know about somebody based on a relationship, whether by marriage, whether by parental relationship, whether by professional relationship. I think there has to be certain level of discipline that one has to exercise in the release of that information. So I think with regard to what is leaked in the video, I think it was a serious lapse of judgment, which he himself has admitted to. And again, like I told you, I wear so many hats. Those of us in the law enforcement profession, I think we should discourage this secret recording of people, especially without their consent, that are used for different purposes. I know if it gets into the media, it's a big story because the media like breaking news. But some of these things impact people. I know it is the president, he's the political leader of the country, so I mean, everybody is okay, but it could be on a personal level. It could be on a personal level. So I mean, that's my view on that. I mean, it is not unreasonable to expect that a mass-based party like the CDC, that there would not be dissension, that there would not be disagreement. The party brings together all kinds of people. So those kind of disagreement are expected. But again, the question would be the way the disagreement is expressed, the forum that is used. Those are all things that, you know, that require judgment. And so that's what I would say.
Yeah, Mr. Kunney, talking about the turmoil in the CDC, one figure who has been making news from his Facebook post is Honorable Akara Gray. Akara Gray wrote on November the 13th by 11:52 a.m. The line is drawn and we are resolved. If care is not taken, the true soldiers will make it terribly nasty. The few opportunists who don't love we are, and this government more than the masses do. So if you listen to Akara Gray writing that they will make it nasty and talking about few opportunities, who are the few opportunities in your opinion?
I don't know. Well, you know, I don't know exactly who he may be referencing, but you know, if you read some of the publications coming from the CDC, they will name people that were not maybe originally part of the CDC, or maybe they name people from previous government that may be in government. I mean, I'm speculating these might be the people that references, you know, that they may be referencing. But you see, look, they talk from Gray and other people. For me, I don't find that strange. I mean, the CDC is the institution that they have lived with for the past 12 years. They've sacrificed, they've bled. Some of them have gone to prison. And it's an institution that they love. It's an institution that they feel attached to. So we should expect that they will have that passion to make sure that their institution go the way they want it to go. And that along that path, this disagreement will come about. It's like anybody who's seriously in love with something that they like, you know. So I don't find, I mean, from the political point of view, I don't find it strange. I think it is part of the process, and I think by them having this disagreement and having the ability to mend fences, I think that speaks to the spirit of the party. That speaks to the foundation, the firmness of the party.
Mr. Kunney, again, the manner and the faction, the speed of this turmoil and the words that are coming from the mouth of these guys, anybody would think those suggest that something very serious might be hurting these guys. I don't think this thing just started. That's something that started maybe from the very get-go. And that is why they are voicing it out in this manner. You think they have the ability to reconcile? Because if you listen to the tape, the things that are coming out of Mamba Molu's mouth, I don't know how they can reconcile this thing. What do you think? You think they do?
But yeah, the people said they've already reconciled. So who are we? We're outside.
And do you believe that?
I have every reason to believe that. But again, this is politics. The dynamic are not static.
Okay.
The dynamic are not static. Anything can change. But for now, it is what they say it is. That they've reconciled. That they are moving on in unity. So, I mean, we'll watch and see.
Let me come to you, Dr. Kulah.
Mm-hmm.
The turmoil, the acrimony is so deep and troubling. These are the guys who are in charge of the governance of the country. And within their own party, if they seem not to get their act together, should Liberians worry? Should Liberians be wrong?
Yes, Liberians should worry. Liberians should worry. I'll go ahead and finish your question and I'll go ahead.
No, I learned my question. Go ahead.
Liberians should worry because the reality is these guys are very immature and very ill-prepared for the leadership of the country, and it shows. They have made one unforced error after another after another. Mr. Kunney talks about the judgment of Mulba Molu. Well, I question the judgment of the president because in the case where a recording came out and the Bone County superintendent was heard talking about how she was interrogated by the gentleman, McGill and others, and the president was sitting there watching. They called the lady a gossiper, you know, and he suspended the lady because she was talking about how she was treated and interrogated and made to feel because of a title that was given to VP Taylor. Now, a lot of these things that are coming out in Mulba Molu's statement about VP Taylor, it allows us to understand why there's so much tension between the president and the vice president. But I look at the president as a hypocrite because he suspended the lady, called her a gossiper, and now in this situation, he's calling those that recorded Mulba Molu and playing it, he's calling them racketeers, right? Because he wants to patch up his relationship with Mulba Molu them to ensure that Mulba Molu them don't join Costa and others. But there's so much hypocrisy in our society that it hurts the governance of our country and it creates the kind of chaos that's going on. And I think CDC will continue to make the mistakes that they're making, a lot of unforced errors because there are a lot of guys that are unfamiliar with what leadership really is about, and they're irresponsible. They lack the proper judgment and whatnot. So this is what's going on.
Mr. Kunney, do you agree with, do you agree with Dr. Kulah that there is a huge hypocrisy here on the part of the president? Because one person was seen to have leaked something and that person was suspended. But when it comes to his body, the Mulba Molu, a Carol Gray, and all who's saying all kinds of things, anyway, he can't do anything to a Carol Gray. But, you know, he says nothing about it and he's that, okay, they're going to reconcile.
I completely disagree with Dr. Kulah. As I indicated to you, my brother, politics is not static. Politics has moving elements. And, you know, I listened to Dr. Kulah's description of the CDC leadership and the CDC itself. You hear all these words, unprepared, and lack of this, lack of that. Look, let us point out that all these things are happening in CDC. They happen in previous administration. There was a big division between Madam Salif and people in the United Party. You have the Wilmot pay, you had the Senator Vani Shema. There was this big open division between people. People in the same political party don't have to agree all the time. because this is a political process. What makes you think that the way the president deal with one official of government that serve as his pleasure is the same he will deal with all political issues? What's the hypocrisy in that? There are political variables that determine these issues. Different calculations go into that. So to say that because somebody was fired because of a leaked video, so any other person with a leaked video must be fired, that is, I mean.
I didn't say that. You see, you
And
always
then
put words in my mouth. I'm saying what it is. There's hypocrisy there. The president, let me show you how.
Why?
Let me show you how.
If you're not holding him, no.
President,
before you answer, get my question. If you're not holding him to the same standard, because your point is there was a recording of the lady and the lady was fired.
I will explain it to you. Just finish your talk so I can explain it to you.
There is a recording of mop-up Molu.
Right.
So action to be taken against mop-up Molu.
Right.
I mean, politics
in your view, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying as a leader, the president projects hypocrisy. I didn't say he should suspend mop-up Molu. I said what he's projecting out to the public is a sense of hypocrisy where nobody will look at him as anybody that makes sound decisions. In one case, a leaked video comes out, a leaked recording comes out. You call the woman a gossiper instead of dealing with the issues that the woman raised. You call her a gossiper and you suspend her. In this situation where another leak thing comes out, which is true, which is honest, instead of you dealing with the honesty of what's going on, instead you're mad at the people who leaked it and you're calling them racketeers. So
can I call you to a point?
Look like?
Can I call you to a point?
Like a hypocrite.
Let him land.
I didn't say he should go and suspend mop-up Molu. It makes you look like a hypocrite. The other thing that it does to him is this, okay, which shows that he's a hypocrite. The problem he's having in Liberia is this. He says one thing and he does another thing. He comes out and says, we should have a society where we speak nice to people and respectful to the leaders and so on and so forth. Then the next minute you come out, you're insulting a family and calling them names and whatnot. And you think people will not call you names? And then you come out and say, anybody insult the president, they will never walk around here again. You think that would scare people? So if you don't stand up as a leader and you stand for something, certain principles, and you project certain principles, nobody will take you serious. I didn't say you should go and suspend mop-up Molu. I'm saying he looks like a hypocrite. The best he could have said for himself was, mop-up Molu said those things out of anger and be done with it. But to start calling people racketeer, they are racketeers, did that, it makes you look very inconsistent. That's what I'm saying. I didn't say you go suspend mop-up Molu. Don't put words in my mouth.
Dr. Kunney, Mr. Kunney.
But man, not doctor. Stop giving me the doctor.
Maybe you should go for it now.
No, I beg you. Again, look. The point I'm making is that the point I'm trying to let Dr. Kulah know is, look, we are on the political terrain. These things are driven by politics. And sometimes his description of, look, you perfectly entitled to your view as who you think Georgia is. I'm not going to debate that with you. That's your view. You're entitled to that. But what I'm telling you, these things happen, and there are different calculations that go into it. The fact that they are happening in this administration don't make this administration any less competent, any less capable than previous administration. Because, mind you, let me make this point. We remember the Ellen Cochran videos, the series of videos that came out during the Unity Party time of Ellen Cochran. Prominent officials of the government were heard making all kinds of remarks, some even against the president. What did the president do? She did her calculation. She did what she thought that was best. Does that give me the right to say, Helen, that hypocrite? She did, she not qualified to be leader? That one is your judgment of where. You can make that.
You say you're conflating issues? You say you're conflating issues?
The only thing I'm telling you, the only thing I'm telling you is issues.
You're conflating issues. I'm analyzing this man. I dealt with him being incompetent.
Can I learn, Mr. Moderator? Can I learn?
This issue we're dealing with right here has nothing to do with incompetency. It has to do with what he's projecting.
Dr. Kulah, let him learn. I don't like to mute people. Let him learn, Dr. Kulah.
Go ahead, let him learn.
So what I'm telling you
is conflate the issues. He doesn't know how to
this
analyze issues.
the dog has overly used this conflicted issue to escape.
That's what you're doing.
The point I'm making is that we are comparing similar events. That we're talking about leaked video. Videos were leaked in previous administration.
Okay.
The president made a political calculation and took the decision that she took.
Okay.
I'm telling you, videos are leaked now. Audios are leaked now. Equally, this president is making his own political calculation.
Okay, I agree.
That does not make him, in my view, that does not make him incompetent. That does not make him
incompetent. Did I say he was incompetent? In this, when I discuss this video issue, did I say he was incompetent?
He hypocrite. It doesn't make him hypocrite.
It makes him look like a hypocrite. It does. In my view, it does.
That's your view, and I disagree.
Well, good. But my view is he looks like a hypocrite.
All right,
that's your view.
Gentlemen.
I'm simply telling you.
Move on. It makes him look like a hypocrite.
I'm telling you.
Projecting inconsistency. He does not look good when he says those things. The way
Dr. Kulah, George, where is not an injured, and you never have an injured ruling Liberia.
All right, folks, let's leave it right there for now. Again, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Anthony Sear. Here I focus on Liberia. We elevate, we educate, and we promote all things Liberia. This is our political show, The Hour of Politics with me, Anthony Sear. As you can see, it's getting heated, but I can also say it's responsible. I mean, yeah, it's responsible. This is a responsible conversation and also a saver. Again, gentlemen, let me bring you back. Reconciliation is important. There is so much conflict right now in the CDC. We know it. They can spin it the way they want. But what will matter at the end is their ability to reconcile. And that which is happening to the CDC is not only unique to the CDC. We know about the Unity Party. It is of very recent that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf tried to reconcile with VP Bwaka. I don't know how that reconciliation is going to play out. But in all of this, who are the victims here? Gentlemen, you go first, Mr. Kunney.
Well, like I told you, disagreement within a political party is a robust exercise. It should be encouraged. It should be encouraged. I mean, we can't promote the idea that the citizenry, they have the right to present different opinions about political party or think, in a monolithic fashion. What is important is how do they come together to resolve their issues. There has been disagreement in different political parties. And this is why I disagree with Dr. Kulah. Because you see disagreement, you see these things, and then you bring all these negative adjectives to describe people as if to say it never been done before. It is wrong. You talking about beating war drum, your description of people make our disco toxic. They make our disco toxic.
But the description is true.
Yeah.
You don't want to be honest.
You're not the Bible.
You are a Southeasterner.
You must have been.
You're a Southeasterner. So you want to support this man at all costs. You don't want to admit what the facts are. You know?
Again, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia. We have a comment. Let me read it. And I would like Mr. Kunney to respond. Josh Lomo writes, name one video that was leaked with the UP chairman and other members gathered in one place, acknowledging Madam Sirleaf's poor performance. Mr. Kunney, you want to respond to that? The series of videos that were leaked during Ellington portrayed Ellen as a drunkard on the airplane. Those videos came out that were made by senior officials of government. Video leaked out that the Ellen government has taken a national security decision to jeopardize the life of Mrs. Ellen Catron, and that she should flee the country by whatever means necessary. She should now use the airport. Those videos came out. We all listened to it. The point I'm making is the president at the time made a political calculation to deal with the issue. It didn't make her a hypocrite. It didn't make her less than fit to hold office. There are political calculations that go into these decisions. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Ain't nothing biblical about it here.
All right.
It is the truth. It is the truth.
Let me break it down to Mr. Kunney here. Videos are leaked. People make political calculations. Yeah, I know George Weah is making a political calculation. He's afraid that if he does anything or says anything negative against what's the boy name, Maba Molu, it will push him more. It will cause him to probably, go his way and probably join the forces that are against him. So what does he do? He calculates to patch things up.
He's acting politically rational.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, Mr. Kunney. What I'm saying here, when you're a leader, you project certain things by what you say and what you do. George Weah does not project a strong leadership when he comes out and calls people racketeers, call private citizens racketeers, call private citizens names, puts out the former vice president health issue, claiming to have taken care of the former vice president, paid for his medical bill, when in fact, that's something that was legally done by the government of Liberia. And it wasn't something done personally by him. It projects him as a small-minded person. These are the facts. I don't care how you want to spin it. The fact is, his chairman talked about his poor leadership skills and how it was affecting his the party and how it was destroying the party. Nobody talked about Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in that way. Talking about Clarice John talking about how they were on the plane and Ellen was drinking wine. What does that say? The woman like wine. The woman can drink. So big deal. The fact of the matter here, we're dealing with Weah, and what came out about Weah looks very bad, whether you want to accept it or not. I know you're a Southeasterner, and that plays into how you put out your positions and whatnot. But the fact is, Weah looks bad right now. Period. Point.
Dr. Kulah,
let me come in quickly.
Dr. Kulah, why you mean that because he's a Southeasterner, that is why he is taking the position he's taking? What made you to say so?
If you look at our government right now, there's two things that George Weah is doing.
Okay.
Anybody that praises him on cyberspace, in these forums and whatnot, he gives them jobs. And anybody that is Southeasterner, he gives them jobs. If you notice, his government is heavy on the Southeastern side. Look at any of those people that he's appointed recently, mostly Southeasterners. The guy that was just appointed to the bank, I believe he's from Grand a Southeasterner. And so our politics in Liberia is always almost like a tribal politics or a family politics or a personalized type politics. And I think that's where Mr. Kunney is coming from, right? That's my position on that.
All right, Mr. Kunney, you go.
And Mr. Moderator, I hope I'm protected.
You are protected.
Okay. Again, I think Dr. Kulah has sunk to the most shameful level in his entire discussion. He lost the argument, so he has gone to ethnicity. And I'm not going to elevate that discussion because that's how you know people lost the argument. To say that all of the points I'm making on this network is because I'm Southeasterner is very shameful, and the dog should be embarrassed by that. You should really be embarrassed by that. I didn't know you were coming here to play the travel card, Doc. If I knew you were here to play the travel card, I wouldn't have even had the time to talk with you. You are giving your views, you are giving your views that you believe in. You are expressing your views that you believe in. I have not branded you tribal. But you see, I suspected that when you asked for my county when we first came, I thought it was out of curiosity. But I didn't know you came to discuss ethnicity. I didn't think you came to discuss tribe. So you've lost the argument. And the argument I've made is that leaked videos can come out in any government. And it is the responsibility of political leaders to deal with those videos based on how they want to deal with it. It doesn't bespeak to anybody being hypocrite, being that, all these negative language. Now, I think the reason why Dr. Kulah is using all these negative languages on George Weah is because he's not a Southeasterner. If Dr. Kulah, based on his logic, if he was a Southeasterner, Dr. Kulah would have had a different opinion on George Weah. But since he and George Weah don't come from the same area, he think it is his duty to denigrate George Weah. But Dr. Kulah,
do you believe that because he's not a Southeasterner, is that why he's so tough on Weah?
or his mindset has exposed that to suggest that my position is driven by my Southeastern upbringing, kind of exposes him that whatever view he has is driven by the fact that he's not a Southeasterner.
All right, let me bring
that's the kind of mindset he has.
Let me bring Dr. Kulah in. Let me bring Dr. Kulah in. Dr. Kulah, go
Moderator,
ahead.
you
go ahead and respond, Dr. Kulah.
Okay, moderator.
He should be embarrassed. He should be embarrassed.
I'm not embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed one bit. I'm not embarrassed one bit. Moderator,
you are protected.
Let me talk, please. Moderator,
you are protected.
If you follow our politics right now in Liberia, it has turned into a tribal politics. Not only has it turned into tribal politics, it's turned into a situation where everybody realized the formula is you come on these forums, you praise George Weah, and most likely he's going to give you a job. That's the game that's being played in our country. And I think, I'm just expressing the reality of what Mr. Kunney is doing. Now, I didn't say all of his positions are because he's a Southeasterner. I said his support for George Weah is because he's a Southeasterner. That's the motivation. That's the motivation. That's what I'm saying.
And he asked you the question, does it also mean that you are tough on George Weah because you are not a Southeasterner? I mean,
no,
that is an equivalent.
I'm tough on George Weah because a lot of us feared that he did not have the leadership abilities, the experience, the skills to run this country. And we were under the impression that in the 2 years we gave him a chance, he was going to put the right people in the right places. But it seems that mop-up and others has bailed us out of all that we feared. It's true that all these guys came for were to get rich at all costs. And that fear has been born by what mop-up has expressed on the tapes.
Dr. Kulah, does that mean that there can be no other reason why somebody will support President Weah other than
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
I'm just
not saying that. Mr. Kunney may support him. Mr. Kunney may support him because he used to be at ULA. And most of these ULA guys use ULA as a stepping stone for political positions in Liberia. So that could be another motivation.
Don't you think that's a generalization?
Check most of the ULA guys. Most of them that were at ULA at one point in time went back to Liberia and either ran for positions or got appointed in positions. And that's been the trend. That's been the trend. So that could be a motivation.
So are you trying to say that all ULA people will probably support this government?
No, I'm not saying that all ULA people will probably support this government. I'm saying most people that have held positions at ULA will most likely look for a job either in this government or try to run. That's why ULA had that strong position about the dual citizen thing. They were pushing that. They didn't want any kind of exceptions to the dual citizen law where they could not hold positions or they could not run for positions. That's
all right. Thank you again, folks. In cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia with me, Anthony C.A., your host on this program, the Hour of Politics on this network, Focus on Liberia. You have been watching the Hour of Politics, and as you can see, we are talking real hard politics. We are playing hardball. Let me come to you, Mr. Kunney. Go ahead and respond to all of the things Dr. Kulah has said. And Dr. Kulah, please allow him to respond.
Like I said, I mean, I'm familiar with the like of Dr. Kulah. They run out of ideas. They run out of facts. They quickly run to ethnicity. They run to simplistic generalization. I didn't have the imagination that the doctor would have cheapened this discussion to reduce it to tribe, to reduce it to people seeking job in Liberia. How come? How did the doctor come so low like this? It is embarrassing. And I think our listening audience needs an apology from this doctor. If there is anything, if there is any degree of credibility left, the point he's making that someone, is supporting George Weah because of ethnicity is just absurd. And Dr. Kulah, let me tell you something. I was born as an Easterner because before George Weah became president. So I'm not going to deny my Eastern root because George Weah is president. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to apologize for it. Very much proud of it. You understand? And this idea that some Liberians have, that for you to be respected, for you to be liked, is you must join them in their unwarranted bashing of George Weah. That's the only way they can respect you. I totally reject that. George Weah was elected by 14 of Liberia 15 counties. Were they also Easterners that? 14 of Liberia 15 counties. So Easterners live in all those counties. The man was elected by 62% of the Liberian people. The Southeasterners, I think they probably constitute like 20% of Liberia, maybe 12% of Liberian population. So that you should be really, really embarrassed.
Right.
You should really retract those
Kunney.
Let
me interject real quick.
I'll give you 1 minute. Listen now. I'll give you 1 minute to respond, and then we will go to some issues that were mentioned in the audio tape so that we can close the curtain. Please respond. Just 1 minute, please.
Mr. Kunney, I will apologize to you if you and our audience and our system in Liberia can prove to me without a shadow of doubt that what exists in Liberia right now, and not even right now, what has always existed in Liberia has been an imperial presidency and a presidency based on tribe, based on those family connection, based on those friends that are connected and whatnot. If that does not exist, then I'll apologize to you. But until you can prove that doesn't exist in our politics, then I owe you no apology. So let's move on, please.
All right, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Let's leave it there. Mr. Kunney, let's leave it there and move on to the final points here so that we can draw down our curtain. Again, folks, in cyberspaces, you are just joining us, and if you want to listen to politics, no other place to look other than Focus on Liberia. On this program, The Hour of Politics, and I'm your man, Anthony C. As you can see, we bring excellent guests here, intellectual heavyweights to go ahead so that you, the audience, can benefit from their knowledge and be informed about the issues that are affecting our country. Gentlemen, let's move to the final segment here. The audio tape. Many things were in the audio tape. At some point, Mamba Molu said, the president, instead of giving seditions job, individuals who campaign for the party jobs, the president is giving his girlfriend's job, one of whom was mentioned as Diana Nabel, a girl who I understand was a driver or held some position somewhere, was promoted to the position of deputy managing director for operation at the MPA. And I'm sure that's the only one he mentioned, but there might be many other because he said that this is what has been the behavior of the president. But the president, in his address, his interview to the country, he said that there are jobs. People are not just looking, people are just looking for a government job. So somebody will be there wondering what kind of job business the president is talking about. Mamba Modu also said in that audio tape that by this time, next election, people will be running away from President Weah because of the way he's governing the country. But Mr. Weah, his interview said that he's going to win the next election and that the people that voted for him will vote for him again. Starting with you, Dr. Kulah, is Mamba Molu and President Weah, who is wrong and who is right?
I believe Mamba Molu is right. And the reason I believe Mamba Molu is right is that if the president continues to run the country the way he's running it with Samuel Twe and McGill, there's a possibility that he would have squandered his political capital so much so that people will run away from him in terms of elections. Look how weak the CDC got in 2 years, where they didn't even field a candidate in, I believe it was Cape Mount. You know, how was this man able to squander the amount of political capital that he had in 2 years? The stadium was full and overflowing with love, with admiration for this man. But over 2 years, when he had the July 26th event, the stadium was empty. People stopped gravitating towards him. You know, so mop-up is right. And I believe a lot of the strategies that you see them doing with passing out rights and stuff, those are ideas that mop-up comes up with. I think recently they had him going around meeting some of the CDC partisans, but there was a time people were complaining that he wasn't even going around the CDC camp after he won the elections. So I believe mop-up is right in that regard. With regard to the girlfriend, giving the girlfriend a job, mop-up's position was, again, and I don't care how Mr. Kunney feels, the reality is George Weah was not ready for leadership. He didn't have the experience, he didn't have the exposure or anything, and it shows. They made mistake after mistake because of that. I'm not saying no other government has tapes or no other government spins whatever tapes they have, but the reality is his chairman has spoken about the ineptitude. Going and giving a girl a job just because you're sleeping with her, you take her from a driver and you give her a leadership position. Perhaps this woman doesn't even have the experience. So you're setting this woman up to fail, you know, and a lot of his appointments seem to be that way. I question even the guy that he put at the Central Bank of Liberia. This guy has a public administration degree, no real banking and finance degree, only worked in compliance in the bank here in America, went to Liberia, he was working one of those departments, his resume wasn't straight, couldn't tell the people whether he was American citizen or not, you know, but he still got passed through because of our no good legislative branch. And those are the things that Mobile Molu was pointing at, and I think he's right, you know.
Thank you. Let me come to you, Mr. Kunney, and before you respond, there's a question here, you can add that. The viewer writes, you are protected to lie. Mr. Kunney, you have been here defending all this precedent, poor judgment, and wrongdoing. Go ahead to our original question first, and then you can include the question or then the statement from this viewer.
Two things. I'm really gonna be brief. Okay. Despite Dr. Kulah's unreasonable ethnic attack, at least I'm happy that he continued to concede some of the points as we go along. He's conceding some of the points I'm making as we go along. So you know that the points I'm making, they're not ethnic driven, they are intellectually driven. With regard to the leaked video, I'm not going to dignify the leaked video because as a matter of principle, I think the whole procedure of secretly recording somebody and releasing it, I think is wrong. So whatever material that is contained in that video, that is not a material that I'm going to promote in this public space. With regard to the president's competence, that comes 2023, he will win the leadership of the country against the combined opposition. I think all Liberians should welcome that. This is what we want. We want the fight to be political. Let people organize. All of these rhetoric, I hope to see Dr. Kulah on the ground one day, highlighting some of these things that he's saying so that they can go in the political arena and be able to educate Liberians on some of these things and let Liberians decide on who they want. That's why we should be pushing. We should not be pushing for silly ideas like interim government. We shouldn't be pushing for ideas like step-down campaign. These things are shortcut to leadership. They don't answer any of our national problems. For each time we've had those kind of shortcut to leadership, the country will go backwards. Either people end up dying and then the country go backwards. So, the president is a politician. He's making his prediction. You know, I'm not a fortune teller to say it will be true or not, but he's throwing the challenge out there to his opponent that based on what I would do, Dr. Kulah is saying based on how he's proceeding, the Liberian people may not elect him. He's saying based on what I would do, the people will elect me. It's a healthy debate. Let us have that debate.
And do you believe that he's doing what can getting across the finish line to the next election, you think he's doing all what is required?
You see, and these are some of the things when we make our opinion known, people say, oh yeah, you just supporting the president. First of all, we all admit that there are challenges in Liberia. Nobody is saying that everything in Liberia is okay. We all stipulate to that basic fact. But having stipulated to that fact, let's look at some of the things that the government has done, which of course other people diminish. Look at the payment of WIAC fees. Many people diminish that. Many people diminish that.
Is this government the first to do those things or to do that? Let me say to that.
Yes, this government is the first to take public resources to pay the WIAC fees of Liberian students going to WIAC.
Did you say public resources?
I didn't say, Joe, we have personal money. I said this government is the first government to take public resources.
Before you continue on, Mr. Kunney, let me say, Charles Taylor did that because you are saying that the CDC government is the first to pay wire fees for students. I know Charles Taylor did that at the time I was in high school when Charles Taylor did that, so I know that for a fact. Okay. I also know that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf did that. I also know that it was even Ellen Johnson Sirleaf who told George Weah somewhere around the campaign time that this is what you need to do to win. Okay, so go ahead.
But the issue of WIAC fee was a serious issue faced by Liberian students. But now only that the fee were paid, look at the other policy decision that was attached to the fee being paid. The after-school program that was financed by the government, which led to an improvement in the performance of Liberian students, relative to previous years. The payment of tuition at the University of Liberia. Many people think that these things are not anything. These are things that the United government is doing. The reduction in the terms of elected officials. Even the progress we are making towards dual citizenship. These are all things that are happening in Liberia. So yes, in as much as the bread may not have been buttered the way we want it, let us not pretend that there is nothing happening in Liberia, that there is nothing that the government can point to that they're doing. So for him, that is his calculation. And anybody can dismiss all of these things that have been said. It's fine. But he's saying based on these things that I'm doing and other things that I will do, I know my people will elect me come 2023. Let's have that debate. Let's have that debate. And
thank you, Mr. Kunney.
All these step down campaign, interim government, all these things, disturbing the peace. Let's do it. Let's do away with all of those things.
Mr. Kunney, thank you. Dr. Kulah, come in. You just listened to Mr. Kunney talking about what the government has been doing, paying wire fees, free tuition, all public university and colleges. Don't you think those are things that can get the president to the finish line of getting another term?
I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because that paying tuition has been rife with controversy. It was never thought through properly. And it seemed like one of those knee-jerk things where he went to LU because those children were agitating, and he just said it without even discussing it with the leadership at LU, and it brought problems because when time came, they weren't able to pay the tuition of most of those students because he said across the board, undergraduate tuition throughout the country. And I think it still has not been resolved. There are issues with that policy that were never thought out properly. So instead of the president making knee-jerk decisions without thinking things through, I think he needs to sit down with his cabinet and others and make those decisions before making those pronouncements. He did it with the zinking of those houses in Nucru Town. He made it seem like the money was coming out of his own pocket, only for us to find out.
You're talking about Claratown.
Claratown, only for us to find out that they took almost $1 million from government coffers to do that. Extra budgetary spending. He's been doing a lot of that, which has caused a lot of problems. The other thing was those houses, I think it was in Nucru Town, those houses that he decided to build when they got burnt. Now, there's nothing wrong with you building houses for your people, but I would have thought that if the president makes such a pronouncement, he would get his people at National Housing Authority and others to find out who actually owned the houses, whether those who were living in the houses actually own them, or there were other people that own the houses. And if that's the case, now we're building houses for people, private individuals that are renting the houses out. So the problem became, after they build those houses, you had people complaining that those who were renting were kicked out, and now the people who own it were renting it to other people at a higher cost. The government could not intervene to help them. I don't even think the government ever resolved that. These are some of the issues inherent in making decisions just off the cuff without thinking them through. That's the problem I have with what the president is doing, that and the extra budgetary spending. The other thing is, Mr. Kunney keeps saying, we know we're faced with problems. We know we're faced with problems. Well, if we know we're faced with problems, don't you think it's prudent that our president make sure that he and those around him tighten their belts? But instead, what is our president doing? Renting a jet from Vista at $17,000 an hour. I don't think that's a prudent use of government resources. And that's something that they need to look into. The other thing Mr. Kunney keeps saying is that people are talking about interim government. We should discuss the issues. I haven't heard anybody discuss anything about interim government. The only person that's been agitating about a step down was Henry Costa, because he said since they put forth their petition, nobody has said anything about their petition, and he feels that the government is incompetent. The president is incompetent. They've been backed up by the leak from Molu, and they're asking the president to either leave or lead. But yet within that same organization, their main position statement is not even a step down movement. So I don't know where Mr. Kunney got his interim government issue from. You know, that's basically my point on that.
Thank you, Dr. Kulah. I think it's getting civil now. I think I like the civility that is being established right now.
But can I just make a point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, Dr. Kulah keep asking me where I get a step down thing from, but he keep identifying where I get it from.
Interim government. I didn't say step down. I said interim government. You mentioned interim government.
Yeah, if the government step down if the government step down unconstitutionally, the interim government where?
No. If a president resigns, the vice president takes over. That's how our constitution is.
Yeah, so they're
asking the president to resign. If the president,
so the president has indicated he will not resign.
Respond.
Yeah. Okay. The president, it's not like you asking the president says, okay, I'm going to do it. The president has indicated he will not resign.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so if you continue with your printing of step down campaign and printing step down t-shirts, I'm getting the information from the same place you're getting it from.
Right.
I'm not making it up.
Right.
So stop asking me where Kunney get.
No, but you're interjecting interim government. Nobody said anything about interim government.
Dr. Kulah, if you say the president should step down, the president say I'm not stepping down, and you say the president must step down, what follow is interim government? No,
it's not. That's your thinking. If I say the president should step down, the president say he's not stepping down, and I say I'm going to have a protest, and I bring out 100,000 or more people, and for some reason the president look at the amount of people that come out and say, "Oh, well, the people don't love me."
No. The president said, "I'm not stepping down."
Let him learn.
You don't know that, Mr. Kunney.
So you don't know that too. You yourself don't know whether there will be no interim government. You don't know that. You
are assuming that there will be interim government. Our constitution.
And you are assuming that there will not be. You are assuming that there will not be.
Let come in with.
You're assuming that there will be.
You making an assumption. You don't want me to make an assumption.
Okay, make your assumption, but then tell the public that you make an assumption.
I'm calling your attention, gentlemen.
But you made it seem as if people were saying,
gentlemen, let's leave it right there. I don't want to mute you guys. I don't like muting you people, but when I'm calling your attention, please.
Yeah, he always want making my point. He always interrupted me. It's bad.
Yeah. So, Mr. Kunney, please land with your point. Then I'll bring in the bonus question, and then
I even forgot the point we were discussing. He interrupted.
All right, then let me come in.
Yeah.
Again, folks in cyberspace, thank you for staying with us here on this network focus on Liberia on our program, Our Politics with me, Anthony Sie. All our programs are broadcast here can be on YouTube 2-3 hours later after the broadcast. Please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Go there, search for Focus on Liberia, scroll down, there's a little bell icon, click on it, and when we upload any of our video, maybe you miss it on Facebook, you will be able to have the opportunity to view it. Here at Focus on Liberia, we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. This is our Hour of Politics with me, Anthony Sie, and we are talking politics. Final bonus question. Gentlemen, our government has a policy prescription called PROPO, Agenda for Prosperity and Development. When you say PROPO, from the way the government explained it to us, that means all their policies, all their programs are meant to uplift the poor people. That suggests also to us that the officials of government must have a lifestyle of a proper individual. It is a question of judgment. This is the final question. In your opinion, is our president and his official living that lifestyle of proper individuals? You go first, Mr. Kunney.
Well, listen, as you correctly indicated, PROPO is a policy prescription by the government, basically saying that whatever we do as a government will be to advance the interests of poor people in this country. So you look at some of the decisions that the government have made over the period. Like, I mean, these things. You're talking about the commitment to road construction, the connection of the country by set of roads. The doctor here referred to the Southeast. The Southeast is one of the most terrible places to go during the rainy season. In fact, that entire region is disconnected from the rest of the country. So if the government is building roads to alleviate, the transportation and all of those things, those are things that promote the lives of people in those places. We're talking about building roads to Lofa. The other day, we heard that the government broken ground for the Saclepie Locatua Road, all of these things. So some of these policies, the result may not be handy right now, but if the totality of what this government commit to do, if the government can execute these things, I want to believe it will help to alleviate some of the poverty condition in the country. We talk about agriculture. How do you do agriculture when there are no roads, no farm to market road, nothing to bring the products to market? So I want to believe when they say PROPO, this is what it means. In terms of the personal lifestyle of the people of the government, I mean, we hear about the salary harmonization. Mind you, prior to the salary harmonization, there were people making $20,000, $25,000 in our government. The best information available to me now tells me that even cabinet minister now at about $5,000 level. So there has been, reduction in the salaries of key government officials, something that we've been calling for years. That has not happened.
In your opinion, Mr. Kunney, has the budget been reflective of the PROPO agenda, the national budget?
I think they can do more. I think they still need to be cut. There still need to be reduction in the budget, but I think they are in the right direction. But I think more can be done. More can be done. And we have to recognize the effort that have been made so far, the reductions that have taken place so far. But still, at the very top, the top 1%, I think there is still more to be done. I cannot justify why a legislator in Liberia should even make $7,000 a month. I cannot justify why the Speaker of the House of Representatives would make $20,000, $29,000 a month. Those salaries cannot be justified. And there's a need for further reduction in those salaries to create the space to carry on some of the pro-poor programs that we're talking about.
And you can also justify why the president budget has increased by $6 million, comparing that to the budget of the previous president?
I cannot justify any of those budgets, the president budget, the legislature budget, the judiciary budget. those budgets cannot be justified. In an economy, you're talking about a $500 million economy. I cannot justify anybody, be it the president or anybody, making more than $6,000 a month. That's my bottom line.
And do you think that the cutting of salaries now called harmonization, I think they said teachers and doctors, but to the contrary, everybody crying, is that a reflection of the pro-poor agenda?
Well, like I say, for it to benefit the pro-poor, the cut got to be at the very top, so that you shrink the wage bill at the very top. That will give you more resources to do things for the poor. And this is why I'm saying, if you were to ask me as an individual, I cannot justify anybody, including the president of Liberia, making more than $6,000 a month in Liberia.
And the jet that Kulah talk about, can you advise the president to forget about the private jet?
Well, you know, I'm not too familiar with the complications of presidential travel. And we got to be aware also that the travel of the president, there are a lot of security arrangements that are involved. If there is anything that can be done that will make the president travel in a secure manner, that would be less costly than maintaining the private jet, I will also go for that. But it has to be a means that assures the president's security, that assures the president convenience. Nobody expects the president to drive a bus to go to Guinea or to make 3 connection flight to get to a summit.
And so what's wrong with doing that? I see president here in the United States riding buses from one state to another. What's wrong with that?
In the same country, I'm not saying the president shouldn't ride a bus to go to Maryland. I'm saying nobody should expect the president of Liberia, given the road condition in Africa, to travel by bus. It creates security. Again,
is the president so special or more human or more important than anybody that they shouldn't travel by bus and other citizens should do that?
The travel of the president to other countries by road poses a security challenge. And this is what I'm saying. The alternate means of travel, those who are, I mean, if we are to find alternate means of travel other than the private jet, I'm saying it should be something that will create convenience, something that is in the interest of security. We want our president to be secure. Nobody wants to put their head of state in an unsecure environment.
Thank you, Mr. Kunney. And Dr. Kulah, let me come to you. Pro-poor agenda is the government, especially the officials, their budgets, the president's personal decisions, the personal lifestyle. I want to know if all those things are reflective of their so-called pro-poor agenda.
It is not. And that's another point. And most of the points that I've been making are geared around this thing, where as a government and as a president, what you project out there speaks volumes. So you can't be talking pro-poor, but you're flying private jet that costs $17,000 an hour. And the excuse that our president cannot fly commercial because of whatever the case may be doesn't hold water, because throughout Ellen's presidency, she flew commercial. You know, you can't be talking pro-poor and you're piling the payroll with partisans just so you can give them jobs. And now, because you're stuck and can't pay, now you got to cut people's salaries and you're doing a rush harmonization, which doesn't seem like it was thought through, you know? And then we're talking pro-poor. Mr. Kunney was talking about the roads that are being built through the Southeast that will help with agriculture and somehow lift the people. But have you guys looked at the budget for agriculture? Have you seen any kind of effort being put into really, you know, lifting the agriculture sector in Liberia? I don't see it. You know, Costa talked about it a lot on his show, gave suggestions to them. Recently, I heard the president say a few words about agriculture, but look at the budget and look at what we're doing in terms of agriculture in Liberia. I don't see that we're doing or we're putting in policies to lift the poor. I don't see what the gender ministry is doing to lift the poor. I don't see what this government has really been doing to lift the poor. look at what they did, the PR effort they had the last time. They got some rice from somewhere. I think the rice was donated by Japan or some country. They went and slapped pour on the rice and was selling it around at $10 a bag and what have you. I mean, these stopgap measures, they're not having full out policies that are reflective of lifting our people from poverty to either a middle class setting or just lifting them from where they are, from being at a market stall to now owning a store, you know, and then moving up and owning businesses. But now we had a problem where, for whatever reason, the port was charging so much that all of our market people that used to go abroad and bring things, they had a hard time dealing with that, you know, based on fees that were raised. That was some of the issues that Costa was raising in their petition about the CTN fees that were being levied on these people for some tracking number that does nothing.
Dr. Kulah,
Mhm.
if I can, or if I may, when I listened to Samuel Tuah recently, I think it was yesterday or so, he talked about the 2,000 healthcare workers that the donor community was responsible for in terms of their pay. He said the donor community is no longer, bearing that responsibility. So that is about 200,000 people, not 200, about 2,000 people being added to the government payroll. According to him, that is about $11 million yearly. And don't you think this is one of the reasons why it is more like difficult now for the government to pay regular for employees?
I don't think adding 2,000 health workers, which is needed, is the problem. I think the problem was where they bloated the payroll with their partisans. I think that was where the problem was.
Can I come in?
And the payroll was too heavy. And when the IMF came in, they told them they had to cut the payroll down. You know, I think that's the problem. And then they were padding the payroll in certain places, in certain areas, like in the president's budget and so on and so forth. So I think that was the issue. I don't think putting 2,000 healthcare workers who are relevant and needed was the problem. The other thing was,
another thing Samuel Tuah said, hold on, Dr. Kulah. Another thing Samuel Tuah said is that people are making all kinds of noise about government not being able to pay civil servants regularly. According to him, it has been like some individuals, not all the people in the employ of the government. And by that, he meant that people who are the finance ministry is responsible for. He said people who the government owed about 5 months are those public corporations like the Water and Seaward and LEC. He said those institutions, they are like autonomous. They raise their own revenue and they should be able to pay their employees. So if those institutions are not living up to paying their people salary, you can't blame that on national government. National government is doing well for those who are on the finance ministry payroll. What do you say to that?
I don't think that makes sense because those autonomous agencies like LPRC and other areas, I think when they raise their budgets, they put all into the government, in the government pot. I don't think they take their monies and pay their people. I don't think that's how it works. If that's how it was working, we probably wouldn't have that problem. But everybody's putting all the money into one pot and then they divide it up and whatnot. I think that's where the problem is. The other thing is, when these guys were coming into power, knowing that eventually, can you let me finish, please? Let me land. I'll let you talk.
Finish, Mr. Kunney, I'll come to you.
Knowing that eventually the unmill was going to leave, you know, and we're going to lose that amount of money in the economy, they should have thought those things through, you know. But instead, the issue was, again, when they got into power, trying to bloat the payroll with their partisans to say they're giving their partisan jobs. I think that caused a lot of the problems, padding their various budgets and whatnot.
All right, Dr. Kulah, point made. Let me push you again. Let's look at, because we listen to you here, and you have serious disagreement with the way President Weah is governing the country. And even his responses to issue, especially with the tape, and you said that he called citizens who are reacting to the tape as racketeers, detractors, and these people are responding to things that are true, that he confirmed, that Mamba Modu confirmed. And then on the other side, we have the former Vice President, Joseph Boakai, who more like referred to Joshua as a mosquito. So how is Boakai different in any case here? Do you agree with his response to what we have said?
How is Boakai different? By Boakai throwing out those words to the president?
And you think it's just a political job and it doesn't have any bearing?
I think the president has more responsibility to set the tone in society. And the way you set the tone in society will dictate how people respond to you. If you go out and you're putting somebody's personal medical information out just for political reasons to prove a point that you helped him out when the money wasn't even your private money. You're talking about the man wearing a pacemaker and you're denigrating him and saying all kinds of negative things to him. He's going to come back and respond in like manner, and that creates a discourse in society that is not one that is elevated. So I think
the mosquito comment was warranted.
I'm just a spectator to this debate.
Mr. Kunney, I had a section where you were asking you questions, and then I came to him, and you are a little impatient. I will come to you. So, Dr. Kulah, final question. So you said that because of what the president said, Boakai had all right to say anything wrong to Weah?
I'm saying that when you set the tone in society as a president, especially in a country like Liberia, what you're going to get is exactly what he got from Boakai and Boakai supporters. I think it was wrong for the president of Liberia to disclose this man private medical information the way he did.
And so you are saying that when your wife cooked the food and the food is not looking good because you're the husband, you're forced to eat it?
That's an interesting one. That's a good question. I mean, the fact is, the way you set the tone, the way you beat the drum is how people are going to dance to it.
And the reason I asked that question, Dr. Kulah, is that Boakai is the most experienced statesman. Weah is just coming into this business of governance. So anyone will expect that there will be mistakes. You know, there are times he will speak and he will not use the right word. So Boakai should be there to correct him and not respond in kind. But let's go to Mr. Kunney. Mr. Kunney, I don't try to make you a spectator. I had your time with back and forth and all that, and I want to do the same with him. But you can respond. We have to close here. Go ahead.
No, I mean, the discussion is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And I really find it ironic that on one hand, certain behaviors are being justified here, and then certain behaviors are being minimized. And the point I try to make on this conference is that our country is at a crossroad. We are a country recovering from war to peace. It is our responsibility to restore the peace. No one has a greater responsibility to restore the peace in Liberia than the other. And whatever we do, even if we disagree, let us use the rule of law as our guidepost. Let us conduct our activities within the confines of the rule of law. Where we feel aggrieved, let us use the rule of law to assert our rights. The suggestion that because our institutions are broken, that because our country is failed, so we should just add up to that failed status and let everything break down is a dangerous prescription for the country. The idea that today we're talking about the healthcare of elite Liberian government officials, we should be talking about the healthcare of ordinary Liberians, not elite officials that have left public life for 12 years, and we're talking about the healthcare. And you say it's public. So what is the healthcare for the ordinary Liberians also? I don't want to elevate no kind of debate.
All right.
Everybody has a responsibility to keep their healthcare private.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Gentlemen, we have to close. And Dr. Kulah, I want you to close with this one. Hearing Costa, upon releasing Bwaka's pension checks in the amount of 46,000 Liberian dollars and 800 plus United States dollars, said very unacceptable. He said the amount that's been given, the pension money, a letter to the vice president, according to him, he used the word pertinence, meaning that it's too small for him. What is your opinion? And then you can close on that note.
Well, first of all, I feel like it's very important and it's incumbent upon the current leadership and any leadership in Liberia to set the tone. The way you set the tone in society is the way things are going to go. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm not saying whether it's right for people to react a certain way, but in this instance, with a check, I think those around the vice president gave Costa the check to print and show to the public because President Weah again was acting as if he was personally giving money to the vice president in his retirement, and they felt that they had to defend themselves. It's wrong on both sides. Why do we have a discourse wherein the current government is exposing people's private information, is exposing Costa's laissez-passer to employees of King FM who are posting it? What is all this pettiness for? I think it's incumbent upon our leadership to elevate the discourse. And Mr. Kunney is wrong to think that my saying that if a government institutes unjust laws is going to cause people to disobey those unjust laws means that I support it, or means that I'm saying that's how the society should be, is wrong. His reflection and his analysis of what I'm saying is wrong.
All right.
You have to realize whether you want to accept it or not, that in any society that institutes unjust laws, that does extrajudicial kinds of dealings, what have you, will have
like serving a writ,
will have the response that you're getting from Costa. It happened here in America, where those in the civil rights movement disobeyed unjust laws. It happened in South Africa, where people disobeyed unjust laws. It's going to happen. I'm not saying it's right.
But they not lawlessly.
Can you please tell him to let me finish?
Let him land. I'm coming to you.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that's what should happen. I'm saying that is what will happen. Societies break down.
Thank you, Dr. Kulah.
Societies break down when those in power do not obey the law, when they go after their perceived enemies, when they do things outside the confines of the law. Everybody is responsible to keep the peace, but the greater responsibility lies on the president and those in power to keep the peace, to set the tone in society, and the tone that they set will dictate how the society is run.
Thank you, Dr. Kulah. And for you, Mr. Kunney, final one, the president said he has helped Bwaka, and he mentioned 2 cars, and then we got to know those cars were actually given to the vice president either by law or it was a decision made by the government, but the president made it to look as though those cars were cars that he used personal money to give. I want you to close with that. What do you say to that?
Well, listen, again, I'm not really interested in discussing the perks of elite government officials. The president made his accusation. Up to this point, Mr. Bwaka has not come to dispel that accusation. The only thing we heard is that the president is a mosquito. He didn't come to dispel the accusation. It is people who think that they have the correct information are the people that are sending different information. But besides the point, people talking about this is someone entitlement. The vice president is not the only former official of government. What is the entitlement of former presidents that in Liberia? What is the entitlement of the former first lady, Nessa B. Doe? What are these people? What are their entitlements? Why do we become so selective in our analysis of issues? This is not the first former official of the government. There are other former officials of government, cabinet ministers, deputy cabinet ministers. What are their entitlements? You see, if you work in an institution and you fail to put into place a system that serves all, then you put yourself at the mercy of authority. That's what I'm saying. If we had a robust pension system that is apolitical, it doesn't care who is president, then we would not be talking these things. But we build our system in a way that it is the president who is in power that must give. Nessa Bido had to go to the authority. What are the pensions for Amos Sawyer? All of these interim leaders, what are their pensions? So I don't want to debate the benefit of people that are being in government, elite government officials. I'm concerned about the poor people who don't have anything, who don't have any benefit. These are the things that we're supposed to be talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Kunney. And again, folks in cyberspace, at this time, we want to say a special thank you to our two distinguished guests. And I think they've been on top of their game so far. They gave you politics, and that's what we do here on this program, the Hour of Politics, on Focus on Liberia here. Gentlemen, we would gladly love to have the both of you again on this program, the Hour of Politics, and maybe that time we can talk about solutions and not just describing the problems and who the problems are or who causing the problems. We will appreciate if you will honor that invitation. We will come knocking at your door again, and we'll be more than glad if you do accept our invitation as you have done. So we want to say thank you. And to our audience, we also want to say thank you for being with us for almost a little over 2 hours now. I think we have discussed a lot. Folks in cyberspace, again, this is Focus on Liberia. This is how we'll draw down the curtains as we leave you with this song. And I have been your humble host, Anthony C. Thank you all, and bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, folks in cyberspace, that's how we'll leave it there. I'm your man, Anthony C. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.